Okay, assignment number 2 in Cartesian coordinate plane. In this one, it's not very long, but it's an important skill to grasp. In this one, you're going to look at graphing a specific form of an xy equation and graph it using only the x and the y intercepts. That's a really important thing to know in certain kinds of business things and in certain kinds of graphing skills as you get into more and more complex math. Econ, all kinds of things use this skill. So this is really important. So we're going to look at what is called the standard equation. And it is something like this. 2x plus 3y equals 6, for example. Notice I have my x and my y, and it's equal to a number. And this is called standard form equation. If your equation is in standard form, it is really easy to graph with only the x and the y intercepts. Remember, in your x and y intercept, what did those look like? An x-intercept and a y-intercept. My y-intercept had a 0 in the x position because it had no left or right movement, only up and down movement. An x-intercept has your 0 in the y position, and the reason why is there's no up or down movement, there is only left and right movement. So knowing these two things, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to grab and do 2 ordered pairs. I usually do them side by side, but let's do them vertically. My first ordered pair is going to have a 0 in for my x. So let's put it into the x position. 2 times 0 plus 3y equals 6. 2 times 0 is 0. So therefore 0 plus 3y is nothing more than 3y. So 3y equals 6, divide by 3, and I end up with y is equal to 2. Therefore, 2 is my value on my y-intercept because my x is 0, so my y-intercept will be 2. My next one, we're going to put the 0 in for the y value so we can know what the x-intercept is. That means I'm going to put 0 in for y. So this gives me the equation 2x plus 3 times 0 equals 6. Okay, 3 times 0 is 0. So I have 2x plus 0 is just 2x, and 2x equals 6. Divide by 2, so x equals 3. Therefore, I can now graph this equation. Since they're all positive, I'm going to leave most of it up in here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay? I have a 0, 2. No left, right, up 2. A 3, so that moves me to the right 3, and then no up or down. Therefore, this graphs my line right there. Okay, very important. Standard form equation, your x and your y are on the same side, a number is on the other side. And so therefore, we're going to graph the x and the y, x-intercept, y-intercept, and that's all we need to graph our line. Notice the line goes all the way through both the x and the y axes. Very important. Okay, one other thing we're going to look at is what's called special equations. In these special equations, we have a variable equal to a number. Notice, we're still in the Cartesian coordinate plane. We're not dropping out of it to only one variable. It means that my x value doesn't have a value. It can be any kind of value at once. What this says is that in this Cartesian coordinate plane, all of the y values have to be the number 2. So if we were to draw that little t-chart that we did earlier, we have an x and a y. All of my y values have to be 2. My x can be any number I want it to be. So I can have a -2, I can have a 0, and I can have a 3. Any of these values I want. I can make it -1, I can make it 10, I can make it whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters is that the y has to be 2 because it says that y is only equal to the number 2. So when I go to graph that, it makes a very specific kind of a graph. -2, 2. Here's -2, and I'm going up 2. 0, up 2, and 3, up 2. This makes a horizontal line. And in our next lesson, we will find out what kind of a slope a horizontal line has. But this particular equation makes a horizontal line that crosses the y-axis at the number 2. On the other hand, over here, we have x is equal to a -2. And so when we say x is equal to a -2, again, we are going to have our little x, y, t-chart, but this time my x values all have to be a -2. And again, my y can be anything I want it to be. As you see, I chose small numbers because they're easier to graph. And so all the x's have to be -2 because it says that is the condition. All my x values are -2. Y is your choice. So again, we're going to draw our graph. And you'll have graph paper, so you won't actually have to draw this. You can print it out. Okay? -2, -1. -2, 0, and -2, 1. And notice this one makes a vertical line that goes through the -2 of your particular graph. And it's kind of important to label the x, y so you know what is your graph and what is your value like that. So that's it for this particular lesson. So you're going to graph using x and y intercepts. You're going to recognize the special graph of a horizontal line and the special graph of a vertical line. And why that happens? It happens because all of the y value have to be the same. So no matter what your x is, you're always going to end up at this particular value on your y. Same thing here. The x is what determines it. Since all the values of x have to be the same, no matter what your y is, your x always has to be that same value. And it makes a vertical line. So there you are with that particular lesson. And now you'll have some practice.